I always had Polkadot in my heart because I always believe that this is it's like a future of Ethereum. My name is Cyril, and I'm currently engineering manager for the Gossamer teams. This is Jimmy.
Yeah,
This is our engineering Gossamer team, and we're currently implementing the golang implementation of the Polkadot host. For us, implementing Gem is basically continue our roadmap, is basically our version 2. So it's our progression, it's what we're gonna do. We have a pretty big team, it's like 9 of us, but pretty much it's only Jimmy now working on the Gem implementation.
For me, I started just into the Web3 world at university. I worked at an Ethereum startup when I was there. And I transitioned to more of a research role. I was a consensus and MEV researcher in the Ethereum world at my university. And then I had done a project for my last year with a company in the space. And the CEO of our company heard about the work that I was doing, and I met up with him. And then that's how I ended up at ChainSafe and put on the Gossamer Project. And so I had studied like Polkadot's consensus protocol like before I was working in the Polkadot ecosystem at all. And so it's kind of for me been a fun full circle to start at the research level and then come back and like be building it now.
As for me, I started with Bitcoin. It was like 11 years ago. We started implementing multi-sig wallets there. Then I smoothly transitioned to Ethereum. We're building also multi-sig wallets for there. And then eventually, I appeared in the company where we're currently building Gossamer like 5 years ago at ChainSafe. And we were working on open source interoperability protocol, but it was for Ethereum mostly. But I always had Polkadot in my heart because I always believe that this is it's like a future of Ethereum. So if you're gonna see what is now rollup centric, like the roadmap for the Ethereum, where they have a data availability store in Ethereum and they have all the rollups around it. It was already solved by the Polkadot like even before Ethereum decided to do this. It just was implemented, it was architectured this way right away. So I always believed in Polkadot. It is unfortunately was much less developer friendly because of absence of the smart contracts, which is now going to be solved pretty much. There is a lot of proposals how to solve this. 1 year ago, basically, I moved to Polkadot as more of my all the time work instead of Ethereum. And yeah, now I'm super happy here. I see a lot of future.
So I would say if I'm meeting someone that isn't familiar with Jam from the Ethereum ecosystem, the kind of in between like the current parachain model where, like on Polkadot, where if you want to build on Polkadot, you pretty much have to build out a whole blockchain, which there's a lot of overhead to do. It's not simple. Neither are smart contracts, but they're much, much more simple than just building. It's easier to build a smart contract than a whole blockchain. I would view Jam services as kind of an in-between where you get more of the flexibility that comes with smart contracts, which is why they're so nice. But then you also get you can build more powerful things than smart contracts, because even though smart contracts are quite flexible in what you can do, they're very confined. And so then you go from that to super complex, and you can do a lot, but you have to build a whole blockchain, which is also like, there's problems with that approach as well. So for me, it's like kind of an ideal middle ground, and you can choose your own adventure kind of in what you want to build, which I think is quite a powerful thing to be able to do.
I would basically say that Gem is the way how resolve data availability problem that you're now trying to resolve in Ethereum. I guess that's basically what all the Ethereum developers, I mean, this is the selling point, right? I recently just had a conversation with the guys from Ethereum Foundation. They were talking about solving the data availability problem, and I'm like, yeah, Gem. I would say my motivation working in blockchain is precisely political, honestly. Because I'm an engineering manager, though I was an engineer for 10 years, I found my motivation basically by the political reasons, because what is a blockchain? Blockchain is the way how we can decentralize, how we can build communities which can find a consensus between each other, but in the same time be decentralized. So we see now what a totalitarian regimes the different countries they can do. They basically, one person can decide to start a war, or another person can decide to remove some group of the people from the financial world by blocking SWIFT or like whatever's there. So people don't need this. Most of the decentralized community, they just need to coexist, they need to exchange the information, they need to like preserve their inheritance, their cultural baggage, and that's it. And they want to communicate, they want to live in peace. So I believe that the blockchain is in the end game, it is the way how we can build these decentralized communities, which will find a way to collaborate with each other, which will build this Byzantine fault tolerance, consensus between each other, how to make decisions, how to build a better world.
I feel like I come at it from the maybe a little less political and more, I'm an engineer. Like, it's great to evangelize crypto and like we want to spread it to as many people as possible, but it's also on us to figure out what is actually useful to people, right? And like, we don't want to build stuff just for us and then try and convince people that they should use it. We want to build things that, like, the product itself brings people in that they would want to use. Like, if we're talking about how do we reach these people that maybe don't know as much about crypto, it's kind of coming and meeting them where they're at and not just like projecting whatever we want to build or the latest research we've done to get them to think it's cool. It's like solve an actual problem. And that happens both from a product standpoint and an engineering standpoint. I still think one of crypto's most core use case is just simple money transfer across the world. Like, that cannot be disrupted, that anyone can have access to. Markets and trading, and like, because if we're talking about simple money transfers, okay, but then it can also be market makers, right? Like, we have AMMs, and it's like, okay, currently market makers are like run in like one friggin' room. And like, it's like you have people that are actually just paying, and it's a group of people in Wall Street that are actually making the markets for like, I'm from the US, so it's like that's literally the case. And it's like, okay, like that is quite centralized and fault tolerant. In this sense, it's inefficient because it's like, it's a cost you have to pay, right? It's we fully automated the role of market maker, and it removed a person in the whole chain of transacting. Hopefully reduce the cost for the end user, which I think is another important thing of having access to, basic or advanced financial primitives, in the cheapest way possible.
It also makes financial world already more inclusive. So we're still trying to find like what blockchain did bring, but as Jimmy mentioned, right, we already have completely fault tolerant and financial system, right? In case of like Swift collapsing, you still can transfer money with Bitcoin. And all the AMMs, they are increasing the inclusivity of the financial markets, because for people who are living in Europe or in the United States, it doesn't really that important because they have access to the financial market by default. But if, for example, you're from Africa, chances that you will be able to trade stocks on like, I don't know, interactive brokers and buy ETFs, you would never pass a KYC, right? But now with IMM, you can go and trade them. One day there was even projects they were building, they were like pinning one-to-one, like the SpaceX stocks or like all these big company stocks, right? It's still possible, it's still like highly regulated, but it's still the way how you can make the stocks market super inclusive all over the world, despite all the sanctions that the people are putting on us.